let's do that.
Yeah, they can lead on us.
All right, so this is where we want to go. And we do this because when you get into retail, you kind of like, it's kind of like, it's a great space. It's super fun. It can be super crazy and also like a little upside down. So sometimes it's a little counterintuitive. We tell you to take, we just said take one step at a time, go slow. What you'll see in here is that we say do that, go slow, but also think about big picture and where you want to get to in the end. And so this is one of these industries where you kind of need to like keep both things in mind, right? As you got to think about, you've got to take it slow, learn along the way, but then also keep a very long kind of picture of where you want to go. This is the description for the webinar. I won't get into that. A little bit about the two of us. I'm Phil. That's Kenny. And we make up this Commerce Life. We've kind of like three arms of what we do. We podcast. We talk about Canadian content only. Small, medium brands and retailers. We do some teaching. We teach principles of retail best practices. Like this. And then we do some consulting. So we do help, kind of problem solve, and we help to get businesses unstuck and growing. We don't typically take retainers. We usually solve problems ad hoc and then kind of help you to move on. And then you call us back when you get stuck again. And then our backgrounds are there. Essentially, there's two of us and we make up one sort of complete person. Almost. Mostly sane, mostly complete. Okay, so as I get into this, I think interrupt us as we go. We're a small group. We can kind of do this any way you want. And then we don't need to stick to a script. We do because it's the only way for us to stick to a script, but we go off script very easily, as Jennifer would tell you, and then we love being able to answer questions on the spot. So if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat. If you want to interrupt, all good, no worries.
Especially probably the way we're going to do it, there might be more questions than you think. You don't have to wait. Ask what you want when you want. If you're thinking 4 slides go away and you think I got to go back, we can go back. But we are easy to move.
Yeah.
So this is for you, not for us.
Yeah.
And I'd rather you leave this knowing, okay, I think I get this a little bit better than I did, 10 minutes ago.
So on this slide, what I've got is what we call the Tuckman model, and this is something that's been around a very long time, and typically this is used for teams. So when you build a new team, there's kind of 4 stages. There's forming, storming, norming, and performing, right? And so forming is, initial stage. A group comes together, they start to form. A team gets together for the first time. They're super polite. They're focused on understanding their goals and tasks and roles, right? Storming is exactly like the name suggests. There's conflict and tension because team members start to see different areas of advantage, different areas of approach, different ways of doing things. And there's going to be conflict resolution. There's potential disagreements. It's kind of a critical phase to helping teams kind of form or to storm to get to where they want to be. And then teams, norming is when they figure out their roles, right? And then they start to create routines. They start building on top of their strengths, and they start, kind of like building mutual respect. And then they start going and accepting roles and responsibilities. And finally, performing is when the team is moving as a team. So they're kind of like fully efficient. They're moving. There's a clear structure. There's trust. There's flexibility on how a team works together, and they're operating efficiently. And so I thought this is an interesting model, one from a team perspective, because when as you start building your own teams, you'll have this as well. But when you start thinking about retail as a journey, this is how you're going to wind up doing things as well. Every one of these stages has all 4 of these, but if I had to break it out, your first stores, especially the two of you, because you're just getting into stores, your first stores are about forming. The stores are happy to get to know you.
The
They
store is your
are
team, part of your team. So
correct. Yeah,
that
yeah.
is a team player.
Yeah, and like you as a brand, like you're learning relationships with the team. You're learning relationships with the store, so you're polite. You're maybe overly generous, and the store will also be overly generous because they're getting a new team member, they're getting a new partner. They want it to work in store. There's all these things, right? Storming is when you start to get to more locations. And then when you start to get to more locations, now you realize that I can't be overly generous with every store, right? What I was able to do with one store or a couple of stores that you're in, I can't do that if you're more than that, right? Because either I don't have time, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, or it's unscalable for me. And so there are moments where you go, I don't want to do it that way. So if you're a retailer and you want it a certain way, I don't want to do it that way. Yesterday we were in Kelowna and we were with a peer group, and one of the brand owners said to us, "Oh, I went to a store. They took my product." And they asked for a deal, an opening day deal. And she thought, that's reasonable. I'm going to give you 20% off. And then after a month, the store came back and said, we really like this deal. We'd like to just keep it at 20% off. Right. And she said, absolutely not. Like, it was never intended to be a long term thing. It was never intended to be like that. Your funding model and the way we cost is based on the full suggested retail price, not 20% off, right? So that's a storming moment, right? So that's kind of, how do I set rules? How do I help, my partners and my team understand what I'm doing, and then what works for me, what doesn't work for me. You start to get to chain stores, and then chain stores are, they start to, want things for real. And then you, as a brand owner, entrepreneur, someone who's producing product, you have to have a routine now, right? I've got chain stores that are coming. Let's say you get into all the Red River co-ops, right? So all of a sudden now there's a regular cadence of orders coming in. They're always, every week they want X number of cases, right? So if you are not on the right, you're not on the right routine, you're not going to be able to do that, right? And then let's say you go from Red River Co-op to all the co-ops, or you go from the local IGAs and you start getting into full Sobeys, big national chains, right? Getting across the country, now you're performing, right? Because now your brand is growing, but you are going to need some of those things to help you kind of grow. So this model, I think, works because it allows you to start thinking about what you need to do at every stage that helps you learn things.
So for the two of you, Victoria and Renal, I think it's these will come and play in all that you do. From your what you learn from that first store, what you learn from the first two stores, the same principles drag all the way through the system. The only things that change are typically the scale of the conflict, the scale of the orders, etc. But if you get your fundamentals right, and if you guys enter the market sort of anticipating where you might be, it just makes the journey so much easier. It's actually nice having people like you on, because you're still at a stage where you can avoid some mistakes, for lack of a better word, or pitfalls that most small companies will fall into immediately. So it's actually I'm actually happy where we catch you on this one, because I think you two could benefit probably the most from this type of discussion.
So if we kind of start from the beginning and kind of go, look, your first couple of stores, your independence, what do you learn from these stores, right? And as the title of this webinar kind of suggests, is what you learn in your beginning stores, it stays with you all the way through this journey. And you learn things that will be harder to learn later. And so it's really key to kind of like, one, embrace the experience that you're going to have, and then two is make the most of the experience that you have with these little stores, because they teach you things that you will need to capitalize on for later, and then they will teach you things that bigger stores cannot teach you, ironically enough. Okay, so there's kind of like 5 badges here. We think that you get into new stores and it teaches you things like who is my consumer? In the same way we were talking about farmers markets, independent stores are a great place to go, hang out, see who buys the product, who picks up your product, how long it takes them to buy, right? Who are they? What kinds of moms are they? What kinds of interests do they have? What else goes in their shopping basket, right? Things that you may guess on right now, but if you're in the store with them, you will actually see what they are doing, and then what are they buying with your product, okay? So that's important. That's consumer. Retail mechanics, you're getting into a store for the first time, it's a very good time to be asking the store, when do you expect deliveries? Is that in the back? How do you pay? What do you expect from me? Like, do I just drop off a case and then your guys take it? Do you want me to come to your shelf and help you set it up? Is it okay if I come to the shelf and help you set it up? Where would you put it? Why would you put it there? There are a lot of things in stores that they really drive the success of your product, right? But lots of brands don't learn that along the way. Yesterday, we actually talked to a brand. She had her product at full price in 2 stores, and they sell the lights out of the product. And then she said anyone else who puts it on sale doesn't sell as well. And then so she thought definitively that means I should leave it at full price because that's how you sell. And then when I asked her, I said, well, but in the 2 stores where you sell it for full price, what is beside your product? So what is on either side of your product, or below or above? And is that different from the stores that put it on discount? And she didn't know, right? And that's fine, but this is your moment where you start to learn things like in the 2 stores that you're in now, do they sell well? What does well mean, right? Like, so if you sell 5 units a week, that might be okay for you, but is that okay for the store?
Well, those are the questions you back to that you have to ask the store.
Correct.
Right. It's really making sure that whatever you do, especially the 2 of you, I love farmers markets because I think they're a great place to start and learn.
Yep.
And you can ask consumers questions. Why
Yep.
did you stop? What did you like about it? What do you think of the price? You can do all that stuff. What you learn to do with retailers, I would never, first off, like if I'm the 2 of you, I would never go into a retailer, find the owner, and start selling. That would be the last thing I do. The first thing I would do is I'd look at the retailer probably from the outside, say, okay, is this a place I want to be in?
Correct.
Is this where my consumer sits? Sit in the car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, just watch who goes in the store, and then say, okay, yeah, I think my peeps are here. Okay, I would go in the store, I walk the physical store, and all of it. I walk aisle by aisle, up and down, zigzagging, to see what else is in there. Where would I like to be? I know you might be a spice, but maybe I don't want to be in the spice aisle. Maybe I look at the crackers and I don't want to be next to Ritz. I want to be close to Rustic Bakery. Maybe Rustic Bakery's in the deli. I don't know where you are, but that's the stuff I think you need to learn at this level, because all the things you do from here, how you set your costing, how you present your product, where you position your product in the store, are going to start to build the foundation of where you're going to go ultimately at the end. So let's say in the crackers, let's say you are not good next to Ritz and Triscuits because Christie is going to kill you. Well, maybe you, before you start, you might want to look at being in another section of the store. Maybe, maybe not. What section is that? Walk the stores. Get a feel for where your consumer would be physically walking that store. Maybe it is produce and deli, and that's where you should be. Where now, maybe for you, it might be I need to be next to meats or proteins because that's where my product can be used most.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be next to McCormick's or all the spice guys because maybe I just get lost in an 8-foot wall of 600 spices. Maybe I'd love to try to be somewhere else. But your first stores is where all these learnings come into play. And that usually starts by physically walking the store from the outside, then the inside, looking, asking these people, the store. I have, sprouted crackers. How do you do in better for you crackers? It's a train wreck for me. I don't sell them. Well, maybe this is not the right retailer for you. It's trying to find those fits.
I think
And then it carries all the way to the chains. If you want to get a chain,
yeah,
you ultimately find that maybe Walmart's not the best chain for you because
that's
you're
right.
really a Vita Save type of product, and that's where you should have stayed.
That's right. That's right.
Or
And
Vita Health, pardon me.
and then I think the other part of that is also messaging, right? So one of the things we love about farmers markets is you get to talk to a lot of consumers. You learn what a consumer cares about.
Why did they stop?
We talked about a crisp, and the two of us got to it's crispy and it's salty. I'm in, right? So all of the other things, it's gluten free or it's
Whatever.
whatever.
Now it's all taste. What do I want?
These two consumers went, we don't care. It's crispy and salty. We're in.
Yeah.
Right? What other flavors do you have? And so what you learn along the way is here's my product proposition, but how many of them actually matter to a consumer? And then you can test it at store levels, right? You can test it with consumers. That eventually helps you. You think of the packaging you have now using Uline. Before you invest in big packaging, you think about these things as what did people say? Like, what do people care about before I kind of move to packaging
Right.
so I can get that done?
So Victoria, one of the things you said is, I'm really not gluten free because the oats I use aren't gluten free.
Right.
When you get into your first farmers market or first contact with people, if nobody asks you if it's gluten free,
Correct.
maybe nobody cares within this
Correct.
set.
Yeah.
No matter what we think or what our perceptions are, the reality is 100 people come to your table and buy the product. Nobody asks if it's gluten free. Well,
Maybe it doesn't matter.
cares if this
Yeah.
is a gluten free category.
Yeah.
If every single person asks, yeah, maybe we need to source a gluten free oat because clearly within this little world or this set, that is a trigger. But I'd love to do that in a Uline pack with a sticker as opposed to have to get 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 bags pre-printed and then find out, shit, nobody cares about that when they actually care about this or whatever it is, whatever the call-outs happen to be. Because remember, we get stuck into what we think people want. When you go out your first stores, you will learn 6 retailers in, all these little guys, nobody asked you about these 6 questions that you thought were critical. They asked these 6 questions. And when that becomes consistent, now it's a learning thing for you before you get any bigger to say, okay, clearly my messaging needs to change, or okay, this, what I thought was important really isn't. This is actually much more important. You'll learn that as you go. But the reason we do this presentation and why we like doing this one is trying to show you that whatever you learn from the farmers markets or these first independents, it's the same thing. Again, I'll keep dragging it out. When you get to Superstore, if that's where you choose to go, same principles. Exactly the same principles. Walking the store, understanding who the consumer is. Do I fit here? Do I want to be here?
I think
that type of thing.
The last two we've talked about a bit already. Analytics are don't think like a million numbers here. So I think one is part of this flows from the messaging is keep a tally. Like who cares about what things that you say, right? So what triggers people, that matters. And then I think you do ask some questions like, let's say you start selling and you really do. You sell 10 units a week and that makes you happy. What you also need to see from the retailer side or the store side is where does that fit? So if I sell 10 of these, does that fit in that category, right? And the answer, like in a crisp category, if you're up against, some of the bigger guys like Christie or whatever, the answer is probably no, you're nowhere close. But as a local favorite or as something a little more natural, yeah, absolutely, you're in the right area. Or a store more what you hope for as feedback that helps you along the way is they go, listen, 10 is too low. You can't keep staying there. You got to be at 15 or 20 units a week for us to keep you in store. So now it gives you some analytics that helps you. It's not a lot of data. It's like 1 point, but it will help you understand this is what it takes to perform. So how do I make that happen? Which leads to the last thing. How do I get a consumer to buy this? Do I have to sample the crap out of this product? Is there a way to get them to repeat with a coupon? Do I put this on sale? Is it display? Like all of these things you will start to learn along the way. Okay?
For the two of you, what I'd really like you to make sure you really both do, especially when you start, is if you go into a retailer, I want to know certain things as a vendor. Right? I own brands of my own, okay? Just so you both know. Like I've owned retail. I've worked in retail. I've worked in distribution. I've picked, packed, and shipped. I've sold. I've done all that stuff. So is Phil. So we're talking from experience. You want to know when you go into a store and say, "Listen, I have a spice. This is what I do. I'd like to be in your set." Oh, well, that's fantastic. We sell really, really great. We sell so much spice. What does that mean?
What does so
What
much
is
mean?
so much?
Yeah.
What does selling well mean? What does selling great mean? You need to ask that, because let's say you walk into a store and they say, "Yeah, we sell, we sell this great Cajun mix." I'll just pick Cajun for a second. We sell 6 units every 2 months. It just flies off the shelf. In their world, that might be flying off the shelf. In your world, you might sit there and think, 6 units every 2 months. Like, well, what the hell? I mean, I got to eat.
Yeah.
I can't live on six
Yeah.
units every 2 months. Or they might come back and say, "Listen, in season, you know what? We sell 6 bottles before noon. So we do 12, 13, 16 bottles a day." Now the other part is, Jesus Christ, 16 bottles a day, 30 days in a month, 480 bottles. Can I actually even do this?
I'll be in the kitchen every day.
Like, what can and that's
how
just
many
one spice.
how many can I make?
I don't know what
Yeah,
that
yeah.
crackers, same thing.
Yeah.
So again, to me, the first stores quantify things. It sells well, lousy answer. What does that mean? Tell me what that means so that I understand how I can help you, Mr. and Mrs. Retailer, to be better, and I can run my world. That makes sense?
Okay. So then when you get to the next stage, when you get to like 2 to 5 stores.
And you two, hang on. Rena,
Oh,
you
sorry.
can stop us anytime.
Oh, yeah.
But don't
Please.
let us just go. This is for you.
Yeah, no,
Not for
it's
us.
very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so with 2 to 5 stores, there are some similarities, right? So consumer, retail mechanics, analytics are the same. What you start to get into, and you'll see these icons changes, now you're into logistics and product knowledge. And what I mean by that, logistics, one is with a couple of locations, maybe even up to 5, you kind of go, I can do this by myself. So I'm going to throw some cases. Both of you have product that's fairly small. I can throw that in my truck, in my trunk, if I've got a little car, whatever it is, and I can deliver it, right? And so to a couple of stores, no big deal. You start to get to 5, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what day am I doing? Am I delivering every day? Winnipeg isn't that big, but gosh, like if you need me there by 8 in the morning, can I do that? Or one needs me there at 8, the other one says I can't take a delivery till 4:30. Like these sort of things start to get in your way. So you need to learn logistics. You need to start thinking about routes, right? So if you've got 5 stores, how many are on the one side of the city versus the other side? Can I fashion a little bit of a route so that I can get there? I live in Toronto. If you don't have a route, you will never get anywhere. It takes us years. I think Toronto's really famous for its traffic congestion now, but it's terrible, right? It can take you years to go places, right? Vancouver is no different. If you're delivering and you've got to cross a bridge, God help you, right? So there's these sort of things that you start to learn along the way. This shapes what you do later with bigger chains.
But we want you to learn it now.
Correct.
And I'll tell you why I say that, because if you don't build in distribution, let's say you guys, let's say you're in central Winnipeg and you're gonna, you get a bunch of listings in San Vital. Well, how far is that? First off, do you even want to do that? Do you want to drive to 10 stores that are 25 minutes, 30 minutes from home, 20 times a week, right? Or let's say you get excited, and I don't know if there's stores that are in Winnipeg and let's say Steinbach. How long does it take to do? Like, are you doing this run yourself? Like, do you have the time? Do you have the desire? Like, does it make even financial sense? Do you want to do that? Right? We try to put these seeds in now because logistics becomes much more complicated once you leave the neighborhood. And the neighborhood, if you live in the south of Winnipeg and you got to get to the north, and I don't know how long that takes, but I know it's not going to take 2 minutes, is that might be just more than enough to me to think, well, shit, how do I actually do this? Right? And Manitoba has just a lot of small towns. And let's say you want to focus on maybe three larger ones, and let's say that is Winnipeg, Brandon, and Steinbach. What does that mean? Are you driving from Winnipeg to Brandon and home? And then driving down to Steinbach and then home? Like, how are you managing all this? Right? If you don't start thinking of it sort of at the beginning, at the early parts, this becomes this icon is always the interesting one because logistics is the one that drives everybody nuts. because it's really cool to drive things in the trunk until it's not. And it typically happens a lot faster than you might anticipate. All of a sudden, Winnipeg's going to be a really, really, really large city when you are driving back and forth like a yo-yo trying to do north, south, east, west, center, and it's fun.
The other thing that goes along with that is what you realize is once you get past a bunch of stores, product knowledge, as in what your product is, how you sell it, how you explain it to stores, gets harder, right? Because you got a couple of stores, you can spend time, you can educate staff, are you guys all here? Oh no, there's a night shift, or there's some kids that come in after school, so I'll come back in and teach them what the product is so they can tell consumers what the product is. That's all great. But there are moments where, like now, you're, in Kenny's example, if you've got to go back and forth from Steinbeck, all of a sudden you're going, I don't have time. I'm running and I'm dropping off product, but now there's no moment for me to teach a store staff properly. What is my product? So now I look like everybody else, right? So how do I do that? What kinds of things do I leave behind? Can I leave behind just a card, a brochure? What should the brochure say? What should a postcard say? What kinds of moments? Is there signage I can do? So these are things that you're going to realize, holy crap, I've got to figure out how to do this because, let's say I can get to all the stores I have in Steinbeck, but then I'm not there for a month and, staff changes over. Well, all of a sudden I've got a whole new, signs go missing. All of a sudden I've got whole new staff. I've got people that don't understand my product. If I'm not back in that store, how will they sell it, right? And so you can see how like the icons change because your evolution changes, right? Because now you're covering more stores. You have to be in more places. And so you have to learn the things that you learned on the first page around how to talk to a consumer, what your messaging is. They now come into product knowledge because you need those to make sure that you are, in fact, kind of saying the right things so that, staff know who you are and then consumers can do what they do. Okay? The next two I'm going to pick up and go a lot faster because they are not your areas, but I just want you to think through them, if you will, because you
I don't want to
in the same place that you kind of want to you want to take one step at a time. You also need to see what's coming. Okay, so when you get to provincial chain stores, what happens is your product starts to drop away a little bit. Okay, so when you are in local stores, they love the product. It's all about the product. It's all about you, and it's all about what you do, and that you're in the area and you're local, and we love that. When you get to the province, they go, look, we're provincial. Everybody's local to us, right? And so it's less about that. Now they're into, okay, so you were in a bunch of independent stores, or you're in a few, kind of our local program with Red River. Now I want to go province-wide. So what do your numbers look like? Have you figured out shipping? What are the things that I can broadcast from head office level? So can I send out a package of materials to my store staff to tell them that you're coming into the store, right? How much money are you prepared to spend with me? And then you yourself will have to prepare for, how do I manage this account? How do I manage this relationship? I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these last two icons on trade spend and key account because they are, you're a little bit away from this. So, and I don't want to scare you too much. Kenny's right. So I think just know that when you get to provincial, it's a whole different ball game, right? Like you can see here, the icons are different. Consumers dropped away. Retail mechanics have dropped away.
Well, hopefully you've learned those from the first guys.
Messaging and promotional behavior, all of these have dropped away because it is more a logistical game and the mechanics of selling product, moving product.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one, because I want to get to the other slides because they're a bit picture. When you get to big chain, if you guys plan on going national, national is, you have to have some very solid things under your belt. You have to know, what do I need to spend to make consumers aware and buy my product on a continual basis? If you do not have that answer, if I can leave anything with you, is if you don't have that answer, do not go to the national level. Okay, it'll cost you a lot of money. Account management is another thing. Logistics just gets bigger and messier. And then the other thing they have to think through is market strategy. How big do I want to be? What retailers do I want to be in? This is that moment where we go take one step at a time. But then the other hand of this is, how big could I dream to be? Is this a Loblaws? Is this a Sobeys National? Or is it, I don't want to go anywhere besides the 10 Whole Foods across the country? Again, no small feat, but things that you have to think about. And then we'll get to shopping basket, but honestly, shopping basket is how do you show them that when people buy your product, they buy other products, okay? What we've done here as well is there's a slide in here that when we send this to Jennifer, will send this to you, but we've got a layout of things that you should learn at each of the levels. So this is a handout that you can have that kind of helps you think about things that you need to think about. This is a list of things that we've kind of covered with you, and we just left it here as a one-pager so you can have this. 3 things that we want to leave with you so that you must know for your journey, okay? So you're going to learn this along the way. We're just hoping that we help you learn this faster. So things that we can leave you, one is local made and regional specialties are cool, but they don't cut it at the national level, okay? So while you're local, enjoy local, right? And that is as simple as, hi, Mr. Store Owner, I make this in your area. I would love to sell it in your store. And then what you should get most of the time is, gosh, I really love that. I've seen you around. Or, oh, you live around the corner. That's awesome. Bring it in. Let me see it. Let me see what I can do with it. Let's put it up on a shelf. Let's talk about it. Did you guys know she's a neighbor? This is kind of like the friends and family sort of environment. At the regional level, that gets a little bit smaller. I was telling you, regional or provincial, they go, cool, but we cover all of Winnipeg, or cover all of Manitoba, or we do Manitoba and the prairies, and you're with everybody else. So cool, but not as cool. And then at the national level, truth be told, like cold-hearted, don't care, right? Because all of Canada is regional and local to them. And so, you get to the national level, they're looking at multiple brands, multiple SKUs. They want to know that you've got the mechanics down and that you can help them make money, profit and money, okay? So I won't go too far into this because you guys are at the beginning of your journey. I want you to kind of keep that in mind, is at every level, you get a little more efficient with your story, and then every level is less about you and more about them. So just think about that, because that changes the way you start approaching things.
That is very helpful.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's really, really important, because they just, the disconnect is when you get to those levels, brands get heartbroken. So like, I don't understand. So this local message has always worked. Now these guys are like a bunch of a-holes because they don't want to know. And the answer is, yeah, kind of. But the truth is, they are not gold on that. They're gold on making money. So if you're not going to make money, then, it could be you. It could be somebody from New Brunswick. It could be somebody from Newfoundland. It could be, we were with 18 brands yesterday in Kelowna. Maybe it's one of those guys. They're all local. If I'm Loblaws,
Canadian's Canadian.
If I'm Loblaws, like whether it's Loblaws, Sobeys, or somebody else, right? Anyone who's national, you guys are all local, and I can make a story out of it, right? Like, so, and you're going, well, no, but I'm here, and they're like, yeah, cool, but not that cool, okay? The other thing that, while you guys are going, is, and again, we won't get into a ton of detail because this will might make you a little sad, but when you get to these charts, and if you need more detail, definitely reach out to us. We're happy to do it with you. We do this a lot, is you have to make sure that your financial house is in order, okay? So at the local and regional level, we build up, i.e. there's costs, we make a margin, we set a retail price. Nationally, we do it the other way around. We start with retail and we work all the way down to the bottom, because every retailer, it costs you money to be there, right? I told you on the regional and on the national, they're there about profit, and there's a high emphasis on profit. If you don't have your costing right, you will have
wholesaling.
Your wholesaling. Yeah.
I think what we both want. I think this is where it's hard because I didn't. The two of you are still really fresh, which is really good because potentially we can stop the mistakes that typically happen here. The reason, like Phil and I, again, we do this one is that we both really love farmers markets for what they are. You could park in a farmers market for your entire existence and do a wonderful life.
Yep.
You do not need retail. Your choices, you don't need to do that. You could go right to the major chains. You can do whatever you want. But each step, it has the same fundamentals, same rules, and then the scale goes. When you start with looking at your wholesale, your retail, if the two of you, if we ask the two of you, Victoria, where do you want ultimately to have your products? Now, where do you want to end up? And if the two of you say, listen, really what we'd like, we would love to be in Loblaws, we would love to be in Sobeys, and we would love to be national, that's your dream, then we're going to say, okay, if that's where you want to be, ultimately, what does that mean in terms of the final retail price? And then we work backwards. And why Phil says that is that if you look at this model here, what most people do is they get their COGS, so you guys know what your label costs, your lid, your bottle, your ingredients, the labor to go into it. So you come to me and say, listen, my crackers all in cost me $3 a box. That's for the outside box, the label, the package, the ingredients, my labor, all of that stuff. What most will do at the beginning, when they hit the farmer's market, they'll say $3 cost, $6 retail. Why? I doubled up. I mean, who wouldn't like that? That's 50-point margin. I make, I make it for $3, sell it for $6.
Awesome.
All good in the hood, right? That's seriously that's you doubled up. That's good.
Yeah.
Until the first retailer. So let's say
Red River Co-op.
Red River Co-op
Yeah.
or Vita Health, because
Yeah.
they have 5 or 6
Yeah.
stores, if I'm not mistaken, in Winnipeg still, something like that. They come by and say, you know what? Wow, that is a really great cracker. What a great spice. $6. I can do $6 in our stores, no problem. I know we could sell this all day for $6. And then you're excited, they're excited, everybody's excited. Until you start doing math. $6 is what they're going to sell it for. They want a 40 margin on their product, which means that $6, they want $2.40 to go into their pocket, which means they're buying that $6 sale item now from you at $3.60. Right? If your cost was $3, you're not making 3 anymore, you're making 60 now.
60
and
cents.
you haven't 60 cents, and you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
I don't know the cost of. I don't know if you're going to have to deliver to all 5 or 6 locations throughout Winnipeg. I don't know what gas is in Winnipeg. It's really shitty in Vancouver. Like, we are super high still. I paid $1.60 yesterday, still a liter. Maybe you guys are less. I don't know, but if I have to drive around the Lower Mainland at $1.60 a liter,
60 cents is gone. Yeah.
60 cents is gone before I even. It's before I execute. I'm already done. And I still like to make money, and I still probably have rent to pay, and I've got taxes to pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So for the two of you, what the general rule him and I will do is, if your COGS are 3, your retail at day 1 probably needs to be like an $11.99. If your dream is to end up national eventually. If the two of you say, I do not care. I live in Winnipeg or Brandon and I ain't leaving. I'm going to do farmers markets all day. I'm going to just do my local retailers and that's where I want to be. Good on me. I'd still go $11.99. But I could play and get to $9.99 at that one if I want to, because again, I know my retailer's going to want margin and probably going to want an ad once in a while, or maybe they're going to say, can you do a demo? And the demo takes time and money and all these wonderful things. You need to build it in now. So for the two of you, before you get way too deep into your world, really spend the time here. You're members of Manitoba Food and Bev. They have people that can help you. We can help you. Quick burst, but we can help you. But use the groups that you guys are members of to get you through these things, because this is where you either live
really
or
important.
die.
Yeah, really
literally.
important. Yeah.
If you set this wrong now, you have nothing but
Yeah. Pain.
problem and pain as you will go through the system, because all these things under this little iceberg here come into play. And you may not know what the terminology, and I don't care if you do right now. Just understand that by the time it's all said and done, it's going to hurt if you're not set up
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, and then we've got a couple of minutes. The last thing is, regional tends to be kind of, where you see big store counts and things like that. We encourage you to look at what is the big picture of where you want to go, right? And so this is kind of that conversation of, I want to be in local markets, whatever, so no problem. But if one day I want to be in a Loblaws, a Sobeys, a Metro, Costco, Save On Foods, Whole Foods, you have to start thinking about those now, because everything that you do is going to be amplified X number of, depending on where you want to go. Okay.
And each of these things also has different things. If you look at Loblaws does about 35% of our grocery in the country.
Correct.
But Loblaws is not Loblaws. Loblaws is
Fortino's,
grocers, which I don't think you guys
your
have money in
independent
Manitoba, but you
grocers.
guys lots of no frills.
Yeah, no frills.
Fortino's is a small chain in Ontario.
Yeah, Real Canadian Superstore.
That's a beast, and
Yeah.
that's all price.
Yeah,
Then you got Loblaw stores, or in the coast we have city markets
Yeah.
in Ontario they're called Loblaws, which are actually pretty nice. They're very cool, very upscale.
Mm-hmm.
But each of them has different consumers and different play too. So even within your national banners, there's differences. Sobeys is IGA in your world. In mine, it is not IGA. IGA ends at the Alberta border for Sobeys, and then the Georgia Main Group, the Louis family, owns IGA here. So it's different. So in the BC, Sobeys is Safeway, Thrifties, and what's the discount banner, the green one, Fresh something,
Freshco.
Freshco. We don't have many out here. That's why I don't
So
know.
in
it, right?
Ontario,
It's not,
we have Freshco.
It's not
Yeah.
our thing.
Yeah.
You guys are all IGAs, I would assume. Probably Safeway still, I'm assuming they still exist. But that's your Sobeys, that's not my Sobeys.
Mhm.
Metro, we don't have Metro here. But they do 11% of the Canadian market. We don't have Metro.
Mostly East Coast.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much all
Ontario
Quebec and
and
Ontario.
yeah.
And if you look at finally, like even in the West Coast, Save On Food Group is finally the first guy who's really based in my part of the world. You guys have them as well. But when you start doing the math, any of the little guys we're talking about, they don't make the list.
Yeah.
Very few people own a lot of our grocery world, which is why we always ask you, where do you want to end up? Because who you end up or where you want to go, you can see the implications of it. Loblaws is a big chunk of our grocery in this country. Loblaw Safeway is 50%. That's two guys, right? That doesn't leave a lot of meat on the bones for the rest of us.
Okay, so I'm gonna end it there. It is it's about an hour in, so I just wanted to make sure. I think it's one for you guys.
Thanks, you guys, very much.
You're welcome.
pleasure.
Anytime.
And nice. We got some really sweet members for sure that are struggling. They're struggling, right?
Yeah.
But
It's okay though, Jennifer, because everybody struggles.
Yeah.
But we just hope is
yeah,
that, even through the struggle, if they could just stay afloat, make some coin, make it viable, then as a country we're better off. We need more of us doing us. Right?
well, you're big enough for everybody.
That's all we need.
But thank you again so much. And I'm looking forward to the recording that I can send to them. And you guys are awesome. That's all I can keep saying is you guys are awesome. And I'm looking forward to the next one again. See you in November. Not too far away,
Yeah,
right?
it's not too far
That's
away.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
All
Have a
right.
nice weekend.
Okay.
Nice day.
All right.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thanks. Bye.